Hi everyone, I'm Mariá Nascimento and I'm here on behalf of my team. My team is AILS-II and is composed by Vinicius, Máximo, Jean-François Gourdon besides me. And we named the team after the framework we developed to solve the capacitated vehicle routing problem. And it is an iterated local search-based algorithm, as I will discuss better in the next slides. Vinicius was the mentor of the method. During his PhD studies, he conceived this method heuristic, and then he explored two versions of it, and the version submitted to the DIMACS challenge was the second version. So we'll discuss briefly about the first, and then we'll go into the second version. The iterated local search is a method heuristic, and it has been applied to a bunch of combinatorial optimization problems. It was proposed by Lorenzo and collaborators in 2003. Broadly speaking, it is a two-phase method. The first phase is the perturbation phase, and the second phase is the local search phase. The perturbation phase is applied to a local optimum. We call this local optimum the reference solution. After the perturbation phase, then we'll have the local search phase. That is an improvement strategy applied to the solution found during the iteration, not to the reference solution. It's to the solution found after the perturbation phase. These two steps, the perturbation and the local search phase, are repeated until a stop criterion is reached. Usually it's the number of iterations. And the two key parameters that we study and we approach and investigate in our method is the degree of perturbation and the acceptance criterion. Why are we worried about these parameters in particular? Because they are key to control the diversity of the method. So if we keep these two parameters with adequate values, we can ensure a better convergence of the method. The idea of AILS that we proposed in 2021, last year, is to apply adaptive mechanisms to control the perturbation degree and to consider as acceptance criterion. So here our goal is to use adaptive mechanism for these tasks. And the first version that we proposed, and I presented here the reference, and it's not pure marketing. The method is really good, and we had very competitive results with the literature, and it had better results than benchmark methods. Is that we have to adjust these parameters related to the perturbation degree and understand better the acceptance criterion to achieve better results with the method heuristic. So what is acceptance criterion? During the search, you have the reference solutions, and it can change along the iteration considering a criterion. And in this case, we have to accept or not the solution found after the local search. We apply the perturbation phase to a reference solution and obtain another solution, and then we apply a local search. This solution not necessarily has a better quality than the reference solution. We can choose to accept this solution, to change, to update the reference solution. So we have to adopt some criterion to accept or not the solution, and that's the acceptance criterion. And here we plant the seed of AILS in this paper, And these two mechanisms, the adaptive mechanisms to understand these parameters are proposed there. And the perturbation degree, that is the other parameter that controls the diversity of the method, it's controlled by a value here, that is this omega, that determines the degree of the perturbation to be employed by a given heuristic. So we have associated to a parameter here, a heuristic. This is a removal heuristic. So the perturbation in our case here in the CVRP that to apply to CVRP is to remove some components of the solution and add in another form. That's why we have here a removal heuristic. So we have removal and additional heuristics. In the case we have to know how many components of the solution we eliminate to then apply some additional heuristic. In this case, we control the number of components to be eliminated with this parameter here. And the control of this parameter is very important because naturally, the higher the value, the more components we eliminate from the solution, the greater is the perturbation. That is very natural, that is very clear. So this parameter will be studied to ensure that we adjust this value to control the diversity in this search. Controlling of the diversity means that we explore and exploit the search space conveniently. That's the main idea behind the adaptive mechanisms applied to these parameters. This is an algorithm for the adaptive iterated local search. That's the method we proposed in 2021, that was last year. And first read the data, and in the end, we return the best overall solution. We have to start with a solution, so we apply heuristic to construct an initial solution. And to the reference solution, to the best overall solution, we assign the solution we construct after the local search. That's the first step of the method. And then we enter here in this loop. And this loop repeats this routine where we have the perturbation phase applied to the reference solution and the local search phase applied the solution that we found after the perturbation phase. The difference between the iterated local search and AILS is that we have to update the diversity control parameter here related to the perturbation phase, and we adjust this parameter using the distance between the solution found after the perturbation phase and the current reference solution. So we adjust this parameter considering these distances. We have what we call ideal distance that is set after experiments. So we adjust this parameter considering these distances. Then we evaluate if S meets the acceptance criterion, and if so, we replace the current reference solution by the solution found after the local search in this iteration. Then we update the acceptance criterion and also update the best overall solution if it is the case. So this is the pseudocode of the adaptive iterated local search. And AILS-II is strongly based on it. So what is the difference between AILS-II and AILS? The main difference is that AILS-II has two phases, not the perturbation and the local search phases, but it has two major phases in the framework. The first phase is the same as AILS, so it works with that structure, it works in that routine where we have the perturbation phase, the local search phase, and then we update the reference solution. So that's the same. And the second phase, we evaluate if the convergence of the method is diminishing, is decreasing, and if so, we try to exploit other regions of the search space. And how do we do that? We have to keep a lead solution, and then we update the reference solution by this elite solution. And so we have a restart, a kind of a restart. It's not a restart because we are not departing from a random quality solution. We choose a solution with a good quality to perform this restart. It's essentially a restart, but not the restart we usually do in some math heuristics. And another trait of our method is that we keep two reference solutions. So we have the reference solution of the first phase that remains intact, and in the reference solution of the second phase. We actually then, after we start using the second phase, we can choose between one or another phase. And when we choose the first phase, so we proceed the search with that reference, the first reference solution. And when we choose the second phase, we obviously choose the reference solution associated with that phase. So that's the difference of the method that makes it better for large-scale research. We already had a very powerful framework to the CVRP. When we developed the first version of AILS, when we hybridized it with path relinking, we had a method that achieved very good results, outstanding results. So why we proposed the second version? When we were testing the method for larger instances, we observed that AILS-PR was taking too long because of the path relinking, not because of AILS, but because of path relinking. And this is also expected. Path relinking is a very exploratory search, and we had to abbreviate this search, but trying to keep the quality of the solutions it found after the path relinking. So after some preliminary experiments, we reached this version that has some traits of the path relinking, but it's not that exploratory. Don't search the solutions found in the path of the two solutions. We'll just investigate the region of a lead solution and drive the method to other direction. So that's the point of our proposal. That's why we are proposing a new method. The employed acceptance criterion was chosen after some experiments. We studied, investigated, and tested 7 different criteria. When we tested, you can see that the last one had the worst performance. So that the simplest method that is to update the reference solution only if the quality of the solution is better wasn't a good choice. In comparison, for example, to criterion 4. The criterion 4 was the convergent, where we had this eta parameter that was decreased along the iterations. Then the perturbation degree tested 4 different criteria. The first is a fixed value that's predefined, a relative value that was proportional to the instance size, then a random value within an interval, and the fourth was a value depending on the distance between the solution found in the perturbation phase and the reference solution. And the best results were obtained when we used the fourth criterion. So here are the results of AILS-II in comparison to the AILS-PR and to AGS that was recently proposed by Vidal, and whose code is available. And we can observe here that we achieved for this large-scale instance to attest that AILS-II had the best results. Then, as we can observe, we had an average gap of 0.38, while the other methods achieved 2.12 and 2.99. So we achieved our goal that was to improve the method for large-scale instances. And here I present the DIMACS results for large-scale instances. For those 10 instances that we tested, was the same that they classified as large-scale instances in DIMACS. And using the average PI, that is the metric that ranked the methods, we achieved the third place. And for us, was very rewarding. We wanted to be one of the best for large scale instances, and we achieved this goal. Here are some final remarks. As I already told before, we developed a method for the CVRP and we wanted to focus on large scale instances. We also can observe by the results achieved by the results of DIMACS challenge that our method was the best one considering gap in the X instances. Here are the references. I list the papers cited during the talk, and beside them, I present the paper we recently submitted to Computers and Operations Research. It is in the second round of review. That is the same AILS to the heterogeneous fleet vehicle routing problem. We also outperformed the literature with this method. We also listed here the paper related, there's a space is missing here, but this is the title of the paper that is related to this framework we presented here in DIMACS, AILS-II, and we are about to submit it. We didn't decide the journal, but in spite of the journal, we will submit it. We will also let it available on archive, and that's all.